Paul Humphreys from OMD is on the show this morning. Morning, Paul.
Good morning.
Pleasure to have you with us on Real Radio today.
Thanks for having me on.
Nice to have you back. As an original band, you're back, the original lineup. And just before we go any further, I'd like to let you know that, because this is an original theme going on here, I'm recording this interview onto one of your original tape machines from stage.
What, like Winston?
Yeah, I'm rolling it onto the big... It's taking up a whole room here, but it's going to sound wonderful at the end.
Fantastic.
I'm pretty pleased I'm getting to talk to someone, one of the pioneering guys of the synth, especially now when it seems that synth tunes are on the up again. I know they get used in pretty much everything, but there's a real 80s sound in the charts at the moment when you look at bands like LaRue.
Yeah, or Lady Gaga, or it's really back in vogue. Electronic music is back in vogue. 80s bands are back in vogue. So we picked the right time to come back, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Is that the reason? Did you just look at it and go, right, this is the right time, or?
To a degree. I mean, I think since the turn of the century, Andy and I have been talking about doing it again. And for various reasons, because of his commitments or my commitments, we couldn't nail ourselves down to a time. And it was sort of 3 years ago, we got offered a TV show in Germany, which we normally turn down because we haven't existed as a band, so we always turn everything down. But we all the whole original lineup, we all phoned each other and said, "Do you fancy a little jolly to Germany, all expenses paid?" So we all said, "Oh, come on, let's just do it for a laugh." But when we were at the show, we only worked for sort of 6 minutes to do our song, so we had plenty of time to talk, and it was on that trip that we sort of decided, well, look, we're not getting any younger. It seems like the right time musically to come back, and it's kind of either now or never, really, to sort of bring the band back. So we. We were a bit apprehensive about it, and we weren't sure if people would respond to us like they used to, so it was a bit scary. So we did a tour sort of 3 years ago to stick our toes in the water, and it was phenomenally successful. So we thought, right, well, people still want to see us, and they want to, come and listen to us play, and they kind of realised that we could actually still do it. Yeah. We dusted off... dusted ourselves down and knocked off the rust, and because we were always a live band, it wasn't like we were sort of the boffins of the wearing the lab coats turning out our albums. We started out on stage in 1978. We were a live band, so it wasn't completely alien to get back to doing it.
And what was it like, getting together and I suppose, maybe this isn't the right word, but finding your rhythm, or just, was it a case
it took
of
a while,
like riding a bike and you got back and boom, straight away you're off?
To a degree, it was a bit like riding a bike. Yeah, I mean, we had to, because it was so long since we played some of these songs, we couldn't remember the keys that they were in, so we had to kind of listen to our own CDs and remember stuff. But it was, I mean, once we had such a chemistry and we did so many gigs together that once we kind of remember what our individual parts were like, it didn't take long to get it really tight again, because that's kind of what we used to do, and it was a bit like riding a bike. It was like, wow, yeah, we can still do this.
Do you, given the choice, with all the tools that musicians have right now,
yeah,
and all the tools that you were experimenting with, I suppose, or trialing for the very first time, or certainly breaking new ground with then,
yeah,
which would you rather have? All the tools in a dancing studio and everything digital, or would you rather have done it the way that you did it?
Well, I enjoy the luxury of the technology of the day now, but I think I wouldn't have had it any other way. The sheer fact that we started out, I mean, we were listening to synth music from Germany in the 70s, and synthesizers were prohibitively expensive for Andy and I. We came from sort of working class Liverpool backgrounds. We couldn't afford a synth, so we had to just sort of make do with what was around. And I dabbled in electronics, and I built some of our early sort of noise machines, as we called them, and we developed this sound with bare minimum things around us. But that was what became Orchestral Manoeuvres in the Dark. I think if we'd had started out with masses of synths and masses of technology, our sound and our approach to music would have been completely different, I think. So I'm kind of glad at the way, as the band, technology evolved as the band evolved.
But you weren't a trained musician as such, were you?
No, none of us are, actually. We're all self-taught.
And can you read music?
No, can't read music at all, and
That's
it's been
fantastic.
interesting because we've been working a lot over the last few years with orchestras. Andy and I do regularly do orchestral tours of Europe, and we did a gig with the Liverpool Philharmonic recently as well. And so it's been really funny to because we're having to score all our songs for an orchestra, but of course Andy and I can't read music, and so we're having to get these people to kind of score them and then convert them into MP3s and music so that we can actually listen to the score that they've created for us before we actually perform it, because we can't just look at the score and go, oh yeah, that's right. So
when I'll level with you, because obviously we're on the ISDN here, you can't see me face to face and I sound older. Was born in 1981, so
Right.
child of the 80s. This is very much the 80s sound that I grew up with. It was all around me.
yeah.
For me, that 80s sound I think is so popular right now, and maybe this, as you say, is the right time, is because all the kids that were growing up in the 80s are now, well, we're nearly pushing 30 or certainly late 20s, and all maybe want to see these bands that we heard, like that I listened to, but I've never actually seen you before. Or never had the
Well,
chance
that's
to.
right. I mean, there are some people who love OMD that were like babies when we split up, so they've not had an opportunity to see us live. So it's been brilliant actually to tour over the last few years, because all these people who thought they would never ever get to see OMD have actually managed to come and see us. And what's interesting now about the internet, I mean, it has its pluses and minuses. But I think one of the pluses of the internet and the availability of music online is that kids have an opportunity to discover things that they might have never done with not having that technology, at their fingertips, And I think kids now are not afraid to sort of look back to what's happened in the past. I mean, I remember growing up. For myself, it was all about the music of the time, and what you listened to kind of defined you as a person. Where it's not really like that now for kids. Anything is fair game for kids to like, and so they're not afraid to sort of go back and discover things that have happened in the past. And 80s is popular with young kids, and we see them coming to our gigs. In their sort of late teens, early 20s at an OMD gig, and I thought, how does that happen?